Nobody taught you this. Not your father, not your older brother, not any coach you have ever paid for. And the reason nobody taught you is because most of the men who could have taught you never figured it out themselves. They were too busy performing, too busy trying to say the right thing, too busy engineering conversations like they were solving a puzzle with a woman-shaped answer at the end. Here is what I want to tell you before anything else. The thing that makes a woman unable to resist a man has almost nothing to do with what he says. And the moment you actually believe that, not intellectually nod at it, but actually absorb it into the way you move through the world, everything changes. The way you speak changes, the way you listen changes, the way you take up space in a room changes, and those changes are felt before a single word leaves your mouth. Stay with me on this. Because what this video is really about is not a line. It is not a script. It is the thing underneath the script that most men spend their entire lives never finding. If you are new here and something in the first 30 seconds already felt different from what you normally hear, subscribe. Not for me. For the version of yourself that is tired of performing and ready to actually build something real. This channel exists for that man. Subscribe if that is who you want to become. Now, the misconception that is quietly costing you more than you realize. For years, men have been fed the idea that attraction is a communication problem. That if you could just crack the right sequence of words, the right opener, the right compliment, the right response to her test, she would fall into a kind of helpless interest in you. And so men have spent decades studying scripts, memorizing lines, rehearsing scenarios, running approaches like software updates, swapping in new language when the old language stopped working. The entire industry of dating advice is built on this premise. Say the right things, create the right impression, win. And here is the brutal, honest result of all of that. The men who go deepest into that world become progressively worse at actual connection. Not better, worse. Because every tactic they learn adds another layer of artificiality between who they are and who they are presenting. Every line they rehearse pulls them further from the only thing that actually creates undeniable magnetic pull in another human being. Realness, full contact, unguarded, nothing to prove realness. That is the hard truth. The thing you have been searching for cannot be found in better phrasing. It has to be excavated from inside you. Here is what is psychologically happening underneath all of this. The man who needs a script to talk to a woman he finds attractive is a man who does not trust that who he actually is will be enough. That is the root, not technique deficiency, not lack of social calibration, a fundamental disconnection from his own worth. A quiet, persistent belief that the real him, unfiltered, unperformed, genuinely present, is not compelling enough on its own. And so he covers, he layers, he engineers, he becomes a PR firm for a person he does not fully believe in. And she feels it. She cannot always name it, but she feels it. There is a particular energy that comes off a man who is running a strategy. It is subtle but unmistakable. Like the difference between a smile that reached someone's eyes and one that stopped at their mouth, the mechanics can look the same. The experience is entirely different. Now let me tell you what it costs you when you live this way long enough. It is not just the dates that do not go anywhere. It is not just the conversations that feel hollow. The real cost is internal. The man who spends years performing for women, performing for anyone, slowly loses his sense of who he actually is beneath the performance. He becomes a collection of strategies rather than a person. He optimizes for external response rather than internal truth. And eventually, the performance becomes the only identity he has. He does not know what he actually thinks about things because he has spent so long curating what he says about things. He does not know what he actually wants because he has spent so long tracking what gets the best reaction. He is lost, deeply, quietly, expensively lost. That is the real cost of the tactic addiction, not failure with women, failure with yourself. So let me give you the perspective shift. What a woman cannot resist is not a line. It is an experience. Specifically, it is the experience of being in the presence of a man who is so settled in himself that she can feel it. A man who does not need the interaction to go a certain way in order to feel okay about himself A man who is not watching himself from the outside, managing his image, calculating his next move. A man who is simply, fully, irreducibly there. Let me show you exactly what that man looks like in practice, because this is important. He does not rush to fill silence. He is comfortable in it the way that someone is comfortable in their own home. He disagrees when he disagrees, not aggressively, not to perform confidence, but because his perspective is genuinely his own and he respects it enough to say it out loud. When he pays a woman a compliment, it is not engineered, it is observed. He noticed something real and he said it without needing her to respond a certain way to make it worth having said. When she challenges him, he does not fold and he does not fight. He just stays, he absorbs the challenge, considers it with actual intellectual honesty, and responds from his own ground. He is interested in her as a person, not as a target, and because his interest is real, she feels it as real. He also has a life. This is not a small detail. A man with genuine purpose, genuine friendships, genuine things he is building and protecting and pursuing carries a different gravity than a man whose entire emotional life is organized around whether women find him attractive. The first man is a whole person. The second man is a need in a body. And that difference is palpable. Here is the thing that most men who are deep in the tactics world miss entirely. Attraction is not something you create in a woman. Attraction is something that happens in a woman when she is around a certain kind of man. You do not produce it through technique. You allow it by being the kind of person who naturally generates it. The distinction sounds philosophical, but it is entirely practical. If you are trying to create attraction, you are performing, and performance blocks the very thing you are trying to produce. If you are simply being fully honestly, without apology, attraction is a natural byproduct of the quality of your presence. Now, here's what you actually do with this today, not tomorrow, today. Stop rehearsing openers and start noticing things, genuinely. When you're in a conversation with someone, notice what they are actually saying and respond to that rather than the conversation you have pre-scripted in your head. The shift from rehearsed to responsive is immediately palpable in your communication. People feel it, they lean in, they want to keep talking to you because they feel like you are actually talking to them. Stop trying to be interesting and start being interested. The man who is endlessly curious about other people is magnetized in a way that the man who is endlessly trying to impress others never is. Curiosity is generosity. It says your inner world matters to me, and very few things land with more impact than that. Stop managing how you come across and start taking responsibility for who you are. That is a different operation entirely. Managing your image is outward-facing. Taking responsibility for your character is inward-facing. One is performance, one is development. Commit to the second one and the first one eventually takes care of itself. And stop waiting until you feel confident to show up as yourself. That is backwards. You do not find confidence and then show up. You show up as yourself repeatedly with increasing willingness to stand behind who that person is. And confidence is what accumulates from that practice. There is no other way. Confidence is not a feeling you find before the conversation. It is an identity you build through 1,000 conversations where you chose honesty over management. Here is the sentence, the thing you say that no woman can resist. It is not a pickup line, it is a statement of self. And it sounds different coming from every man because it is built from his specific life, his specific values, his specific ground. But in its essence, it sounds something like this. I know what I want and I am honest about it. Said not as a declaration, but as a way of being. Said through your eye contact, your posture, your willingness to have opinions and preferences and edges. Said through the fact that you are fully present in this conversation and completely unconcerned with how it makes you look. That is the sentence, that is the thing that no woman, no person can resist in another human being. The quiet, undefended, undeniable statement of a self that knows itself. You already have the raw material for this. You have lived through things. You have formed opinions through experience. You have desires and convictions and a perspective on the world that belongs entirely to you. The work is not to become someone new. It is to stop hiding the someone you already are beneath performance and strategy and the exhausting labor of trying to be likable. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are most likely too hidden. Come out of hiding. That is where the real work is. You are not looking for a line. You never were. You were looking for permission to stop pretending. Consider this your permission. Own your perspective. Own your presence. Own the specific, unrepeatable person that you have become through everything you have been through. No apology, no performance, no management. That is the man worth knowing. That is the man she cannot stop thinking about. And that is the man you are capable of becoming if you commit to the internal work rather than the external script. If that is the conversation you want to keep having, subscribe. This channel is for men who want something real, not tactics, not tricks, actual depth, actual growth, actual self-respect built from the inside out. That community exists here. And if you belong in it, stay. The work starts now.